This story takes us to Ghana, specifically the highway that connects the industrial port of Tema with the energy hub Akosombo to the north. A man is driving along this well-traveled roadway when he stops to record this bizarre sight. A torrent of water appears to rain down from the sky, but only in one small spot.
We're literally looking at a waterfall in a very confined space, coming seemingly from the sky and targeting an area just off the highway in which this gentleman is filming, looking on with amazement.
Look closer. The driver pans his camera across the road to show the viewers it's not raining anywhere else. The pavement looks mostly dry, yet the downpour shows no sign of abating.
When people first saw this happening in real time and across the internet, once it went viral, there were a lot of different reactions.
One theory is that this hyper-local storm is just a freak of nature. We've all heard people say they saw it raining on one side of the street and not the other. Can it really happen? Consider this video from China in June 2018, where rain is falling on one side of the storm cloud but not the other. Or how about this torrential rain shaft in Gyeonggi-do, South Korea? What could be going on here? Could it be something called a microburst?
Microbursts are an extraordinary phenomenon. The microburst leaves a massive depression in the ground, oftentimes smashing buildings, trees. A lot of people attribute this to other sorts of phenomena, even a UFO landing.
And here's another crazy example. This U.S. Geographical Survey photo of a super isolated rainstorm in Colorado is not quite as small as the Ghana squall, but it's still pretty unbelievable. Now, we know that water can play some strange tricks on the human eye. Look at this surreal footage of a phenomenon called laminar flow. And you can see from the video out of Ghana that, bizarrely, the water just keeps falling and falling, rushing out onto the ground. Could this all be just a hoax, an act of God, a mystery of science? We turn to our experts to see what they say about this extreme and extremely small deluge. Atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hens examines if this downpour could be a true freak of nature.
When the view pans up, you can kind of almost see this domed appearance at the top of the water plume. It's pretty hard to distinguish from the clouds in the background because those clouds are white, but it doesn't really seem all that connected together.
And maybe it's a spout of water, and people were confused because the clouds are the same color, making it appear the water's coming down, not going up. Theoretical physicist Dr. Michio Kaku agrees. There's something fishy here.
You can't see any source of the water. Water just comes out of nowhere. In physics, there's something called the conservation of matter. Matter cannot be destroyed or created out of nothing, so the water had to come from someplace.
Kaku quickly figures it out, like you probably have too.
There's probably a pipe break of some sort. Water is under pressure. It shoots straight up, but then gravity and different kinds of oscillations take over, and it starts to flange out, and it becomes a spray as it comes back down again.
So this video from Ghana has an explanation. But what about the clips of these other small storms? Are they also too good to be true? At the very least, Hens confirms that a microburst is a rare but quite real phenomenon.
A microburst is this very intense downdraft that kind of rushes out the bottom of a cloud. And sometimes that downdraft is dry and it hits the ground and spreads out and it looks like a bomb went off. But sometimes those very intense downdrafts do come down with rainfall.
And Hens says the videos of isolated rainstorms, like the one out of China, all have telltale signs that they are the real deal.
One big difference with the video that's from China is that you can see that the rain shaft that's coming out of the bottom of that cloud spans a good chunk of the river and the surrounding buildings. That's still very localized, but the scale of it is more in keeping with what you would see coming from a cloud.
Our verdict? It is clear that the deluge in Ghana is coming from a broken water pipe or some other source in the ground. But these other photos and videos show actual rare weather phenomena. They're examples of microstorms that you may be able to spot if you're in exactly the right place at the right time. It's hard to imagine a more tranquil activity than flying a kite. So it's shocking when something so innocent turns potentially deadly. And the way this strange story ended had some people calling it a miracle. First, a warning, this video may disturb some viewers. It's August 2020 in the city of Hsinchu in northern Taiwan. At an annual international kite festival, dozens of colorful and creative kites are soaring through the sky. When suddenly everything goes awry. Cameras are rolling as the tail of a 75-foot-long kite snatches up a 3-year-old spectator in a strong gust of wind. This footage is unbelievable, but look again from another angle.
The girl is carried off into the sky, holding on for dear life. But at 3 years old, how would a child be able to hold on to something that seems so flimsy?
After about 8 seconds, the wind finally brings the toddler closer to the ground where people can grab her. What's most amazing, once freed, she only has some scratches to the neck. The footage is so crazy, it has people questioning if it could possibly be real. Now, it's true the girl may just have gotten tangled in the kite, but its material is so lightweight and slippery, it has people wondering if she could possess abnormal strength for a toddler that enabled her to hold on while being whipped through the air.
All she had to do was let go, and it's game over.
So some believe the only way the girl could have survived this ordeal is with the help of divine intervention.
According to Christian faith tradition, each person has their own guardian angel. Believers might say that this would be an instance where a guardian angel was there to help safely guide her back to Earth.
Look closely at this clip of the incident. See those glowing orbs in the sky? Some have claimed those are guardian angels appearing as balls of light. These shocking clips show the enormous power of a sudden wind gust. Hurricane-force winds can even tear apart buildings. But did this video of the Taiwanese toddler actually happen? Let's turn to our experts to see if they were as blown away as we were. Forensic video analyst Michael Primo does a comparative analysis with various recordings of the event.
I didn't detect any evidence that these things were computer graphic generated or that these events were staged in some way, shape, or form. The movements of the operators of the cameras feels natural. They're almost surprised that this is happening.
If the video is real, we need an explanation. So, could guardian angels have protected this toddler? Catholic miracle researcher Michael O'Neill says the belief in guardian angels has been around since the 4th century. Yet O'Neill is also a trained engineer, and he thinks something else is at play.
Some have perceived orbs in the background in this image and therefore extrapolated that to mean angels being present, but because it was a festival of kites, those just look like other kites in the distance that maybe the sun is reflecting off of.
So if not through the help of angels, how did the girl remain attached securely enough to make it down safely?
It's definitely possible for a kite to provide enough force to lift a small child.
He's right about that. Just look at what this freak gust did to a kite surfer in Brazil.
But the thing that's really interesting here is how she's being whipped around by the tail on the kite, but yet is remaining attached. What we do know is that there are types of knots called binding knots that once they are around something, if you pull the string, it doesn't loosen the knot, it tightens the knot. So this means that the more the girl is whipped around by the tail of the kite, the more securely she's held by the tail of the kite.
You can see that particularly in this frame where it appears that the tail going taut pulls on and tightens the knot. And biochemistry expert Amy Eskridge agrees that the wind may have actually helped secure the child.
As the gust of wind came through, it actually coiled around her, and that actually would hold her pretty securely, almost like a clove hitch sailor's knot.
Our verdict? Through a miracle of physics, the tail of the kite likely knotted so tightly around the toddler that she remains attached to it until making it back to the ground. June 4th, 2020. Just another day in Detroit, Michigan. Tracy Bell is walking to her car with a friend as she catches a glimpse of something out of the ordinary.
What is that? This is some crazy stuff. What's going on?
Take a closer look. It appears to be a dark ring-like formation making its way through the clouds. Unusual for sure, but Tracy has her own idea about what she's witnessing.
Oh my gosh, the aliens have attacked.
That's not all. Another was recorded in the skies over Moscow in 2018.
Какой-то круг, кольцо такое, как будто что-то.
Then again in 2019 over a snowy field in Montana. What are these? Was Tracy Bell right?
Oh my gosh, the aliens have attacked.
The fact that a person would jump immediately to UFOs isn't that far out in left field. A lot of reports come in of people seeing UFOs enter into clouds and not come out. So are they using it for camouflage?
Some speculate these strange rings are created by jets, part of a secret worldwide conspiracy known as chemtrails.
Chemtrails, or chemical trails, is also known as geoengineering or climate engineering.
Believers say what we assume to be normal contrails are in fact laced with dangerous metals and chemicals, which dissipate into the atmosphere.
Heavy metals like aluminum, barium, strontium, these are hitting us in ways that are deleterious to our health and to the environment.
But why? The theory goes that governments are doing this for nefarious purposes, like weather modification, even population and mind control. 17% of people surveyed in an international study said they believe governments are involved in some sort of secret atmospheric program. Is that what's going on here? Or maybe these are alien ships masquerading as clouds. We went to our video analyst, Mark D'Antonio, to take a closer look. Our first question, is this a UFO?
It really is pretty cool looking. Is it some kind of unidentified object? You know, what is this ring in the sky?
But D'Antonio says in his years of research, UFOs come in various shapes. Triangles, cigars, orbs, but never rings.
I've never seen one in association with a UFO report. This doesn't fit the classic profile when it comes to a UFO.
So if we're not looking at a UFO, then could they be chemtrails?
Chemtrails are typically described as long, feathery material, but in this case, it doesn't fit the profile for the classic chemtrail spray that we've been hearing about throughout our history.
So, are we looking at some sort of weather event? We take that question to atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hentz, who examines the video filmed by Tracy Bell.
It's at an altitude that's much lower than all of the cloud that's around it. And a perfectly circular thing is not something you frequently see, and especially not so low in the atmosphere.
And Hentz finds another glaring clue which rules out a weather anomaly.
Another thing was the ring's color. The fact that it was so dark doesn't suggest that it's made of water. This is something that's more akin to smoke or soot, something of that nature.
Okay, so we've narrowed it down to a smoke ring. But what could possibly cause one so large? D'Antonio has a theory.
This object is potentially created by a diesel engine. Diesel engines have a long, tall stack, and when they start up, they typically will expel a lot of black smoke, you know, boom, and off they go.
This video proves it. Watch the formation of a smoke ring.
As that plume is pushing through all that colder air around it, it's actually going to wrap up the smoke that's already in that circular shape. That combination creates that nice ring.
So there you have it. It's likely these rings were created by a factory smokestack or some sort of large engine. The good news is that we're not looking at a worldwide government conspiracy or even something from another planet. The bad news, it's just more evidence of how we're polluting ours. Our verdict, smoke rings. It's July 2022, and the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is exploring the submerged Mid-Atlantic Ridge, or MAR. It's part of the longest mountain range in the world. As the researchers sink to the depths, journalist Eric Grunhauser says they spy a strange sight.
The really amazing thing that you're seeing is this perfectly straight series of holes or indentations that don't even look circular, but instead look rectangular or oblong.
Take a closer look. This uniformly spaced out trail of small holes looks like someone created it. If so, how did the person get down here? This site is about 1.5 miles below sea level. At that depth, the pressure on a diver would be equal to an elephant stepping on your big toe. So Grunhauser says, some suggest this might be evidence of some kind of covert operation.
Is it possible that these odd holes are actually the remnants, the leftover patchwork of a former military base or a secret underwater laboratory?
We know the U.S. Navy has a deep water facility in the Bahamas to test underwater vehicles and weapons, but maybe there are undercover bases hidden from the public that the government uses to conduct espionage or highly classified weapons tests. Author Jason Martell says others wonder if these holes could have a more otherworldly origin, such as a kind of alien craft known as a USO, an unidentified submerged object.
Maybe something has landed at the bottom of the seabed, and these are the actual imprints left from this technological craft.
The U.S. Navy has documented numerous encounters with alleged USOs that reportedly fly in the air and then dive underwater. Most recently, this now famous 2019 incident in the Pacific recorded by the USS Omaha.
Whoa, splash.
But others suggest this pattern was created by an unidentified sea creature.
We have to wonder if these aren't created by a pod of beak whales. We know that beak whales poke holes in the sand searching for their prey.
Yet, these holes seem like they would be too small to be made by a whale, so perhaps they're from some yet undiscovered beast. Home to thousands of species and running north to south from the Arctic to the lower tip of Africa, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is about 10,000 miles long. Yet it's not done growing. The ridge spreads about 1 inch a year. With such a large reach, it still holds so many unsolved mysteries. Will our ocean holes remain one of them? Geologist Dr. Bob Anderson looks into whether these holes could be the result of man-made technology.
There are a lot of not just cables across the ocean floor, but piping for oil companies. And this looks like it could be something man-made, where the cable is coming up to the surface and you can see parts of it.
However, Anderson says there is a big but.
If it was an active gas line, you would believe to be seeing active all the time because the gas would be flowing through the pipes. But you don't see that.
So what about a man-made or alien-made underwater structure? Marine biologist Dr. Ch3.Smoke sinks that theory.
If this were the remnants of some mysterious underwater lab, I think we'd see more elements to it than just these small series of holes here. As it is, this seems like a relatively small feature.
Steingass also takes a bite out of this having anything to do with marine life feeding habits.
There are some kinds of animals, like beaked whales, that use suction feeding to actually suck their prey out of the ocean substrate. And I would say that's pretty unlikely because of the formation of these particular structures.
Here you can see what scientists believe are the markings left by a beaked whale on the seafloor. The tracks are not as rectangular or as evenly arranged as the straight line of divots in the mar. So if these uncanny ocean holes do not originate from man, nor beast, nor alien, what's left? Anderson says the answer is the Earth itself.
When you have these tectonic plates that are shifting and moving, they could cause little fissures opening up. And when that happens, these gases trapped inside these areas get released pretty fast.
The release of the gases creates a void into which the sediment above collapses. When pit craters form along a fissure or fracture lines, they can develop into what's known as a pit chain.
The pit chain usually are big enough where people can go into them. They're like caves into the ground. These are like miniature pit chains.
Our verdict? We will lean on Anderson and call these ocean fissures that have created mini pit chains. Similar pit chains have been discovered on Mars and other neighboring celestial bodies. And because our oceans can have similar conditions to those on other planets, we are able to see a little bit of cosmic wonder right here on Earth.